Okay, so why don't I tell us about
Do
her
it.
work
Say
and
stuff.
what it's about? So, I just wanted to start with saying I love Silvia Moreno-Garcia's work. Our writer series we meant to do one last year because we generally do one like once a year because people really love when we do like biographical episodes.
Yeah, people really come through for those.
They love those. And it was a different group of writers, but Silvia was on both lists. Like when we changed it, she was still there because I was like, no, we need to talk about Silvia. And I have currently read 3 of her novels so far, and I'm working on a 4th one, getting through it. And each of them is really phenomenal, like an entrancing piece of literature, and no 2 are the same. There might be like some similar things, but what I really appreciate about Moreno-Garcia's work is that you never know what you're going to get when you pick up one of her books. Not fully. And she crosses genres so fluidly with extreme care for each of them. Like, I don't ever feel like she's disingenuous with her approach to them, whereas like there are some writers who like switch up what they're doing, and I'm like, you're just like, you don't respect the genre. You're like, just like, it's almost like you're making fun of the genre. There's a specific author that I think of when I do that. Yeah. maybe one day I'll roast them. Book talk. I get really close all the time. But there is an appreciation for the genre with her. And also there's this magic that is really only hers. There's a very specific tone and feeling that you get with each one of her works that I feel like that's what kind of blends them all together. You know, you're reading Silvia. Like you just get that feeling. Gods of Jade and Shadow is my favorite. It's a brilliant folktale journey that was hypnotizing and the world was addictive. It was the second one I read by her and I was like, whoa, what? What is this? Oh my gosh. Like it's one of my favorite books of all time for a lot of reasons. It's just so beautiful. There's a lot. And I really appreciate Silvia's knack for creating protagonists that are flawed, simple, and beautiful. And she explained in that interview with Pen.org that Kat shared with me, her love for the absurd genre work, saying, I love genre fiction and I love horror. Poor horror gets treated like the cousin we don't talk about. He doesn't get invited to dinner. On the one hand, I joke that the industry gave us Crabs, the Human Sacrifice. Please look up the 1988 cover of that book. Can't be taken very seriously after going there. And the horror boom of the 80s produced plenty of dreck. But between possessed children and sewer mutants, there's sometimes a space to touch on something special and no less poignant than a realistic drama. It's the space of shadows on the wall that we stared at before we went to sleep when we were children and the frightful darkness around a campfire. Looks like snaps. So, like I said, we won't be discussing Mexican Gothic in next week's episode. That was like our original thing. And then I was like, let's pivot. But we will talk about Mexican Gothic for sure at some point because it's one I really love. And it was my introduction to her. And I'm sure introduction for a lot of people. It was also my introduction to Book of the Month, and my wallet has yet to forgive me. It was like,
and it lives at my house right now.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And I have so many books on the TBR now, on my like physical books because of Book of the Month, but it's fine. I had actually found Mexican Gothic while doing a deep dive into Gothic literature. I had been planning to write a script, and still am, in that genre. And so I wanted to submerge myself into literary works to get into the right mindset. Kind of like she was saying, like reading all the things so you can do it justice. I was like, let me just like identify what the core parts of Gothic literature were. And that's when I discovered Mexican Gothic, because I found that the genre was ripe with classic tales of white women woes, and I wasn't entirely interested. Like I was like, I found Crimson Peak by Guillermo, and I was like, that's it. This is what I got. So when I was knee deep in these searches for Gothic tales with any amount of melanin, I found Mexican Gothic. And while reading it, I fell right into the story. It was simple at first, so much like other Gothic tales. Like she was saying, like it's aware. It's very
Mhm.
aware. Like, I am a gothic tale. And I feel like that adds to it. Like, it makes it kind of like you're in on the joke in a way.
Mhm.
And it was really intriguing in a way that I couldn't find in others. And I found myself caring more for Noemi than I ever could care for Rebecca. Like, I was like, there's a different moral that we're getting from
Yeah.
white women led gothic tale and then Noemi here. But there was one moment that struck me and had me rethinking my entire reading journey, like, of my life. Like I was saying, like with Goodreads and everything. And that was that in the book, Noemi, who's our protagonist, is a young Mexican woman with a wild streak. This takes place in the 50s, and she loves dancing. She's proud of her sexuality. There's like, she's wonderful. She's,
Mhm.
a different woman of the time, right? And she is sent on a mission, so to speak. She is tasked with checking on her cousin, Catalina, who is married to a wealthy white man. And something has happened to Catalina. Her letters are full of mad spirals and ramblings. And when Noemi arrives by train to her destination, a man who works for the estate is there to pick her up. And Noemi, upon seeing this man for the first time, remarks at how absolutely pale he is, um, as if he had never seen the sun. She's like, what what is wrong with him? Like, it's
How even be this?
it's so funny. Like, it's just like, are you okay? Like, it's hilarious. And it was at that moment that it like dawned on me that Noemi isn't white. Like, of course I knew she wasn't, but I had been so used to like doing the work on my own and swapping the identity of the characters to fit my experience that it struck me to realize that I didn't have to do that already. Like, Noemi already looked like me. And then I had to
Mhm.
reckon with all of the other tales that I've read and ponder how many times I'd simply ignored character descriptions, making them up as I wanted them to be. And with Moreno Garcia's work, I never have to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. It was like, oh my god. It really was. I was like, oh my god, I've had to do all this extra work. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't have to do that with this one.
Yeah.
On Twitter, Moreno Garcia explained her decision to feature dark skinned women front and center in her work as a direct critique of colorism in Mexico. It's colorism that exists in other Latin spaces too. Puerto Rico has that as well. I grew up having that kind of internalized hatred and like racism that comes with that as well.
Mhm.
Moreno Garcia said, "The women in several of my books are dark and beautiful because my mother was told she was ugly due to her dark skin and indigenous heritage. It's a gift to my mother each time she can picture herself as the hero." Which is just so beautiful. It's like, really is.
Yeah.
Um, in Gods of Jade and Shadow, this critique is really strong and imperative to the story. Like, I think if, there's a gift to her mother as a hero, then Gods of Jade and Shadow, that's her mom. Like, it's very obvious, like, this is for you, mom. Though each of her books are different, embodying whichever genre and subgenre combination she fancies at the time, there are pieces that she brings with her to each adventure. And that would be strong Mexican women as protagonists, an entanglement of magic and the very real, relatable struggles of those protagonists, simple and honest romances that pilot the journey, and
Mhm.
always there's a vision of Mexico. And whether that is a near future, a neo-noir, fantastical 20s, or the toxic colonized 50s, is
Mhm.
Mexico. I am not Mexican, but it does seem many of my core memories of acceptance and understanding myself have often been inspired by Mexican women. They take up a lot of space in the media world. That's
Mhm.
like music, movies, books. Looking at you, Selena Quintanilla. I was like, that's my childhood. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say how thankful I am that Silvia Moreno Garcia is in this space, spinning wondrous tales of heroic and beautiful protagonists that look like me. I am also eternally grateful to have the opportunity to learn about Mexican folktale, the indigenous experiences, and more through each one of her books. It's a breath of fresh air, and I'm addicted to the stories and history. And it's like, it's so good to not have just like the three stories that you always hear. Like, we forget, like, the world is so large.
Yeah.
Why would we not talk about the other ones? So let me hop into bits about her books, and you'll see exactly what I was talking about when I say like they're so different.
Yeah.
So her debut novel, Signal to Noise, is an urban fantasy novel about a teen girl in 1988 who discovers how to cast spells using using music. Her and her friends use the magic to repair broken relationships, families, and hearts. And the novel begins with Meshi, the young girl, now older, returning to her hometown to attend her father's funeral. Here she revisits her childhood, the places, people, and the magic. And I'm currently reading that one.
Nice.
And it was like I had been reading it, and then we swapped out for certain dark things. So it was like my third one reading it. I was like, this one is so. I was like, what is this one now? Like,
Yeah.
to go from Gothic, Gods of Jade and Shadow to this, I was like, what? And that was like really exciting to me. It wasn't like a negative. It was just like that's because I didn't read anything about Signal to Noise.
Yeah.
I was just, I'm going to pick this up, and I was like, every time it's something cool. Her second novel, Certain Dark Things, we will cover in depth next week, and that is a neo-noir vampire tale set in an alternative Mexico City. And I will geek out much more next week, but this book was so exciting and captivating. I was like raving to Kat. We actually switched over to this for Mexican Gothic because of N.K. Jemison's review. But so many of her books, like I was looking at them and their reviews and like recommendations are from like all these other authors that I really love, and I was like, oh, support.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. But Moreno-Garcia envisions a world where vampires live amongst us, and even more interesting, there are different species of vampires, from the native Mexican vampires inspiring visions of gods and bountiful earth to the sickening pale colonizer vampires that serve as our villain. It's not subtle, and it's great. Published in 2016, I am so envious of the young people who get to experience this novel in their foundational years. All I had was Twilight and Holly Black, and like I said, I was looking at Goodreads, and there was like all these other ones where those were what I had to satisfy my supernatural literature cravings, and what I would not give for the representation, the world building, and the education.
Yeah.
Like, my storytelling would have been so profoundly different had I had the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
In an article on LA Times titled How Silvia Moreno-Garcia's Shape-Shifting Visions of Mexico Took Over the Bestsellers List by Paula Woods, they explain how appreciative readers are of her honest and magical world building, saying, science fiction critic Amal El Motar hailed the novel for its representation of Mexico City as a real place. A city with history, districts, subways, with beauty and ugliness, with problems. It is not a book that renders Mexico City according to its distance from New York City or even from the United States. This book's face is turned towards Guatemala, Cuba, and Brazil. And it's so true. Like, this character's like on the run, and their answer is like, I don't want to go to America. Like, I don't want to go there. They're like, you could do that. Like, risk yourself with the coyotes. And she's like, nah.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go south. Mexican Gothic is a terrifying novel that gets under your skin. It plays into a very specific fear that I have, but I will not spoil it.
Yeah.
You have listened to this podcast, you might know. It plays with magical realism, leaving readers with a blend of the logical, scientific answer and a haunting, mystical one, which I love. We're going to be talking about Beloved later in in our next series. I'm so excited. I love magical realism. Our protagonists fight for her life against racism, colonialism, eugenics, and mysticism. Most people know her for this work and can often be caught off guard when reading her other books, expecting something equally spooky. But Moreno-Garcia is a chameleon, molding her voice to reflect the genre of choice's background flawlessly and with respect. The only threads that connect them is in intense love and appreciation for her homeland, Mexico, relatable and realistic protagonists, and an intense hate for colonialism. And it's like, girl, same. I got so excited when she was like, and then the colonial vampire. I was like, oh my God. I was like, yes, She just says it like every single time. She's like, "These are the bad guys," and I'm like, "Yeah." Very N.K. Jemisin.
Yeah.
In that interview with pen.org, they explain some of the depth with Mexican Gothic. The novel, set in mid-century Mexico, not only utilizes the tools of Gothic horror to unsettle and surprise the reader, but to also examine the worst and most fearful truths of society. In Mexican Gothic, this includes the racist ideologies and theories of eugenics. If we were to call this genre fiction, what are its inherent strengths? At its best, what can it reveal about society because of its specific rules and demands? So think about that and then go read it. It's really quick too. Like you could get in and out. Gods of Jade and Shadow, like I said, is my favorite so far. It is a gripping journey full of magic, repression, and rebellion. It is familial trauma, internalized racism, and the deconstructing of both. Akin to Cinderella, protagonist Cassiopeia finds herself serving a family that does not serve her. One night, while cleaning her grandfather's office, she encounters an old box, and like Aladdin, she unleashes something otherworldly. She frees the spirit of the Mayan god of death, who requests her help in recovering his throne from his treacherous brother. And it is romantic. It is mesmerizing because it's the 20s. And so it's like, aesthetically it's so beautiful, and there's so much talk about like the differences between like the indigenous people and how they're treated, and like she's literally on her journey, like she was saying. She knows she's on a journey. She has read fantasy like Cassiopeia and is actively living one of those, and it's so cool and honestly again so romantic. Like there's parts like emotionally I'm like it's so good. That like one of my favorite books of all time. But on my TBR shelf sits all of her other books, which was Velvet Was the Night, which is a dramatic neo-noir set in 1970s Mexico City during the Dirty War. The daughter of Dr. Moreau is reframing the H.G. Wells story of human-animal hybrids into an anti-colonial adventure set in the Yucatan Peninsula full of romance and suspense. The Return of the Sorceress is a fantasy novel about a broken-hearted sorceress on a path to revenge and power. Prime Meridian is a futuristic tale about a girl working as a rent-a-friend, selling her blood to rich old folks who use it for rejuvenation and dreaming of Mars. The Beautiful Ones is a telekinetic fairy tale, gothic Bridgerton-esque tale of high society, mysticism, and as always, love. Untamed Shore, published in 2020, is a crime noir featuring a Bonnie and Clyde-inspired couple, murder, and romance. And then there are also 70-plus short stories I couldn't even begin to recite, and I implore you to pick up a Moreno-Garcia novel. You will not be disappointed, and further, you will not know what to expect.
Yeah.
Every time I was like writing, it was like, and another one, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then I was like clicking on them and they were already on my like want to read. I'm like, I don't got time. Why are you all writing so much? And it's because they're chasing a bag. I get it.
Yeah, you're about to have me like unearth my like teenage Goodreads account from my Facebook profile and like start using it.
Yeah, do it.
To make me put everything that all these people that we're learning about ever wrote, and just be like, read everything always. So it can put on internet and review it and tell other people how great it is.
Yeah. I'm working on some book talks. So don't
I'm going to
worry.
have a TBR now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a TBR.
Yeah. Maybe I will share a
challenge accepted.
Stack of books next to my bed that I just like, I'll like buy a new book. My partner's like, what is that? And I'm like, I have like 3 of them. I'm like, shh. And then I just put them on top of this pile. And sometimes, every now and again, I pick one from there.
Yeah.
But even in me reading like 3 books at a time, still can't read them all. Can't read them all.
Yeah. I can't read paper books, but I want to own them so that when I have kids, they can read them maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that their house is filled with books that are not age appropriate for them to read and like learn about stuff and have really interesting worldviews. That's what I want.
I am moving soon, and every single time I move, that's the thing I dread. Is like I know, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna change. Like the one thing I hoard, books. If I were a dragon, my hoard would not be gold. It would be
Yeah.
books. I'm not Jeff Bezos. Like, you know, I'm not hoarding wealth. I'm hoarding literature.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's just how it works. Yeah. So many things on my list. One thing about Mexican Gothic, like I have this like one of the book covers. Every time I look at this book, there's a different book cover or art made for this book, and they're all amazing. Like every single one, I was like, "What? I want that one!" Or like, I have Certain Dark Things, and I have like this one, which has like the girl and the dog, which is helpful in visiting what the dog looks like. But there's like 2 alternative covers, and I'm like, "What? I want the one with the hand on it. That looks cool." Or Signal to Noise. There's one where it's like a cassette tape on there, and then there's another one that's like pink and like cool. I was like, I can't. That's now. I'm like, maybe that's what I'm addicted to as well, is like judging a book by its cover, because those covers are really dope. Also, the fan art for Mexican Gothic is really great.
Yeah,
because it's so easy and fun, and full of horrible things, which are people.
Yeah. I'm excited to read it. It's been in my house for a million years, but I'm probably still not going to read the paper version, and I'm just going to read the internet version, and I'll return your precious, precious book back to you. Yeah, and then probably buy it and then never look at it again, but hopefully one day other people will, because I have it.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing I will note. So, like I said before, Mexican Gothic is why I got Book of the Month. And Mexican Gothic, because of that experience with Noemi looking like me, and like just the emotional like reaction I had with that realization, inspired me that every single time I would get a Book of the Month, I specifically got it from a BIPOC person. Like I refused, like I was like, I am not reading one of these white lady beach reads. I'm not doing it. And some of them were really amazing. Some of them I was like, oh, like you're killing me. But I will say that it really, like, forcing myself to do that really expanded the stories that I could tell. It wasn't like I wasn't caught in the same, like how many times can I read A Big Little Lies? And I've read many of her books. So I was like, but even as different as they are the same, because it is this one, it's like one type of woman's experience every time. So yeah, I hope that like whichever, like if there's a, one of the genre works that you like, genres that you like, there's probably a book by Silvia Moreno-Garcia in that genre, and I encourage you to give it a read, and it will, I think, open up the world to you and give you appreciation, especially for like Mexico. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It's so rich in history, and we don't really get a lot of that for Puerto Rico, and I'm always looking. Like I have a book of Puerto Rican folktales because I'm like, tell me. But even just learning about Mexico, I'm like, that's amazing, and I could very easily do that. If you heard that was my cat.
Charlie.
She also loves Silvia Moreno-Garcia.
Yeah, and she wanted to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, it was a good time for her. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. And then
they're great thoughts.
Read it.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. So.
And it's like a just great mantra to have. Everyone read. Everyone do it, because you'll just learn things. You'll get better as like a human. You'll learn about the world. You wanted the same thought a million times,
Yeah, but like, and read a book by like a Black woman, an Indigenous woman, a Mexican, like, or like a queer, like people. Like I've read so many queer books this year, and I'm living for it. So, yeah, in our next writer series, just you wait. I'm getting in there.
Yeah.
We're breaking down some boundaries, so I'm very excited. So stay tuned. Definitely check out our episode next week for Certain Dark Things. Let us know how you feel. Which one of Silvia Moreno-Garcia books is your favorite? And I'm sure we all have a different one. It's almost like it could be a BuzzFeed quiz. Like, which Silvia Moreno-Garcia book are you? And they're like,
that's great. I think that should exist.
Drama? Are you the H.P. Lovecraft short story? Are you the one about Mars? Like, what are you?
Mhm.
Yeah. So let us know. Let us know what your favorite is. Let us know some recommendations. Definitely one of those. If you like Silvia Moreno-Garcia, then you might like. I would love for you to do that.
Mhm.
I'm currently reading some River Solomon. Recommend some of those. And remember to like and subscribe. Drop us some comments. Let us know what you think, how you feel.
Hit the bell.
Ding, ding, ding.
Get
Yeah,
that
hit
notification. Yeah.
Yeah, check out our short film Jolly Butcher, which is
Yeah,
getting
it's
a
making
lot
the
of
rounds.
attention.
Yeah.
We have now been in four, or we're going to be in, have been in 4 film festivals. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Check out our short films. They're like really dope.
they're
And
so
they
fun.
do not get enough love.
Yeah,
They're just so beautifully shot and
yeah,
everyone should watch them.
they're
And
so
like, yeah,
sweet.
maybe we don't act great, but like it's worth
We
it.
act well
I think
enough.
we do act pretty well too.
Yeah. It's not like an Emmy, but it's decent. It's not
Yeah.
going to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, do all those things, and don't get married.
They'll eat your kids.
Oh,
You're
oh,
welcome.
oh,
Why?
yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm so done.
Do up, don't eat your kids. Uh,
Yeah, that's what we're
okay,
doing.
we're getting weird. All right, well, we'll see you next week before we go on break, and then we'll see you in the spookiest of months. So
October.
stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.